Today, I want to talk about the most serious issue, and that is food. The food supply, as you saw throughout 2020, is actually very fragile. If you look around, you see weakness everywhere, you see that fragility, and of course, sometimes we have a break in the chain, and as a result, prices could be very high. You could see there's actually shortages in many cases, but ultimately this is what I want to focus on right now. I've taken some notes right there on the screen that I really want to cover today, and we'll look at this. It'll be a different video than most, but I think it is extremely important. So I got a video sent to me by one of my subscribers, and it was from the Ice Age Farmer. And now I know that some of you have reported him to me in the past. And so in this video here, he was talking about the underreported shortages that are taking place. And I think it is appropriate that I cover this issue, not because Ice Age Farmer talked about it, but there's so many things that go in line with it. Number one, let's talk about the supply chain. It is very clear that the supply chain is not as strong and robust as we believe. If you look at what's happening with the supermarkets, they only have so many days worth of food, depending on where you are. They say it's roughly 72 hours and the store shelves are empty. You know that this is the case anytime there's a natural disaster somewhere. Ultimately, what they do is go in, they buy all the bottles of water, they buy the bread, they buy this and that, and suddenly everything is gone. So that's one thing. You could use that as a reference point. But you look at what happened throughout 2020 and the prices of things started to go up dramatically, as well as the fact that there was just shortages. You couldn't get certain things, and that was really all over the place. That was taking place. So when I look at this, I want to emphasize the point that we are in a time in which this could actively be happening at any moment and people are not prepared. So that's the message I'll finish with in a moment here. I want to make it very clear that if you look at the commodities index, I showed you in maybe the last video, the one before that, the commodities index had increased dramatically, and that was off a low. So we'll see what happens over the coming months, but it has broken the trend and looks like it's going to head higher. But you take any of the grains and you see that they have all increased right now. So that's one thing. That's going to put additional pressure on people, especially when they have to pay more for their goods. It's not as if these businesses are just going to take less profit. No, they want to use that in their business just as they would before and actually maintain the same margin, meaning you as the individual are going to have to pay a higher price. The consumer will ultimately pay for that. Now, what we've seen with the grain going to China, I noted that while they were significantly under where they promised that they would be as part of the whole trade deal, it looks like they did increase their buying of some of those grains. Now, a lot of that, I believe the number is, at least in the US, 70% of the grains are being used to feed as animal feed. 70%. So you have to understand where this grain is going. It's not necessarily to feed the people, it's actually for the animals, and then the people are eating the animals. So this is the way that the chain is working, and right now it's a big problem, of course, because if the prices are rising, that means the meat ultimately is going to cost more money and people can't afford it. That puts pressures on the farmers and so on. That's an issue. Inflation is picking up. You can measure it in different ways. Call it what you want. Use the core PCE rate. Use the CPI. Those are all fictional. You have to take a basket of goods, and you can measure that by your energy. You can use the food. You can use all of those different things, and ultimately you're going to see that inflation is definitely hot. You can take these factors into account and understand that I believe this one is the fact that the people who are going to be hurt by this the most are those in the bottom 50%, where you have a larger percentage of their total makeup is going to be going towards food, going towards all of their expenses like this. They don't have so much disposable income, particularly right now. So this is going to hurt a lot of people. There is no doubt about it. When I talk about this to the average investor, they really do not care. All they want to know is, how do I make money off of this? And I think there's something much more important that we need to be really focusing on today, and that's what I want to talk about up there. But essentially, what we're looking at is a time in which a lot of people, a big group of people are dealing with an issue that cannot be resolved by printing money. They're consuming all this food at the food banks more than ever before. And if you look at the direction of 2021, at least so far, it is not looking good, because it's just going to continue. You've started to see the rates tick up as far as how many people are becoming unemployed. The jobless numbers are starting to increase here as there are more shutdowns, as these different businesses have been forced to basically close their doors. The bankruptcies, of course, will be increasing as we see this persisting, and the businesses just say, like, I can't do it anymore. You can have as many PPP loans as you want. Ultimately, it's not going to fix the problem. All right. And then one other thing I noticed was that everybody's favorite Mr. Gates, if I say his full name, of course, it's probably going to trigger the algorithm, but he is now the biggest land owner, as far as I'm aware, based on what I read, buying farmland, hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland. I think it was the number. I'll do a video about that. I'll show you my screen after in a different day. But you're talking about the biggest landowner. Now, what's the mega rich doing with all of the land? Well, I think there's something else. I think it's about control of the food supply. So what does that tell you? If the mega wealthy are buying the farmland, they're not doing it to make money from. That's not what that's about. They want to control the food supply. Of course, if you look at what's going on with Monsanto, they want the control of everything. The food supply is so not just profitable, but it's more sinister than that. That's a different story. The point is, you got to take control of the food supply that you've got going on in your own life. The average person, of course, has no preparation whatsoever. They don't make any preparations on their own. They have nothing to do with it. They've got to worry about their 9-to-5 job. They live in a community that they can't do that here. They only live in a small square footage area, this and that. Well, look, we're going to talk about this in just a second. One more point. Shortages of grains are hidden and commodity prices are significantly higher. This is what I was talking about earlier. And essentially, you can look at the actual data. You don't have to take Ice Age Farmer's word for it or anybody else that's talking about it. You can actually see what's happening as it relates to the data that's coming through. Okay, so that is so significant. That is so important. Look, this right up here, that's 1 Yard Revolution. It's a YouTube channel, one that I've recommended many times before here on this channel, because I hear a lot of individuals talk about how you cannot plant here, you cannot grow here, it's too cold, you can't do this, it's impossible, there's gonna be, the temperatures are gonna drop and you can't do it here, and so on. Ice Age Farmer lives in Chicago, or at least the last time I saw a video. I meant to say a 1 Yard Revolution. Lives in Chicago. We're talking about a very cold climate in the wintertime, and he uses these hoop houses, do-it-yourself type of thing, double layer, where he wants to grow certain types of crops, and he is able to grow right through. Now, is he going to be growing mangoes and bananas and coconuts? No, but you can grow food. And he's doing it in a fairly standard sized backyard, and he is making it happen, harvesting right throughout the year. Everybody needs to do this. Maybe you don't have land right where you are, but could you get access to some? Do you have a family member that has a house and a backyard and say, look, I'll fill this thing with food and you can have as much as you want. You just let me take my part in it. I'll take care of it. I'll be here 3 times a week. I'll do this and that. You do it, whatever it is that you've got to do, make it happen. Because right now the shortages are in, the prices are rising, and people need to be aware of what they can do on their own. It's so important, I think. And I think that a lot of the individuals today are taking it for granted, the supply chain and everything. Meanwhile, if they would only just spend some time, spend some effort, and a little bit of money growing food, I mean, it can be done cheaply. You could spend more on the construction, but look, he did this in a really do-it-yourself manner. He utilized what he had at hand, bought a couple things, each hoop house, I can't remember the number, but it was like, maybe 100 or 200 or $300 in supplies and things. You can go more expensive, you can go cheap. The whole point here is that the food preparedness is so key, so important, more than ever before. Now, of course, you can get storable food, you can get canned food, you can get rice, you can get all these different things that you might just eat anyway, but you're going to keep some on your own in addition to what you would normally consume, because we don't know what's going to happen. Hey, keeping a couple extra bags of rice isn't going to be a big issue. Having a bunch of canned food is not going to be an issue. You just put it in the storage area and you'll do just fine. This is so key. This is so important, and nobody wants to talk about it. All they want to talk about is the next high-flying stock. Now, I know I'm not popular, and I know that the channel is not going to hit fever pitch. It's not going to be the next big thing. I got that. But I just want to provide the information that I believe is helpful to you. If you've got any words of advice, if you grow your own food, if you are saving seeds, if you are doing anything, no matter where you are, if you can, state the area that you live in or the type of climate that you live in and what actions you're taking. Put those in the comment section so we can help each other, because there's people all over the world that think it's hopeless. Oh, I have to wait for the government to help me out because there's no other way it's possible. No, you can do it. You can make change. You can help your family, and ultimately that's going to be a good thing for your entire community. All right, if you appreciated the video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated it, give me a thumbs down. I love that too. Take care.